Aparna, to you. Now, data is the new oil, and every feature in a smart innovation and initiative involves data. How can businesses today be confident that they are leveraging this new valuable resource to the fullest and in the right way and in the most and importantly at the right time to deliver disruptive outcomes based on your experience at Microsoft and otherwise?
Okay, and I think Keshav talked about this, in his opening note as well of data being the new oil. So I want to actually take a step back, and I don't know if all of you know oil refinery as well, but let's actually first talk about what happens in an oil refinery, and then let's see how we can draw parallels in our journey with data, which is that so you start with the crude oil, which ultimately has to be pipelined into and ingested in some form into the refinery. Then you go through a process where you need to store them. So there are tanks, there are maybe underground, storages that you store them in. Then the next step is totally around your quality standards, right? What quality is it? Does it need, what kind of massaging it needs? So it could range from, does it need to be desalted? Is there distillation to be done? Or do you need to heat it at very high temperature? So there's this whole process of massaging that happens. And ultimately you get, whether you get petrol, whether you get Vaseline, the value out of it, right? Now, draw parallel to what happens in a typical data journey. Before you can do the cool stuff, which is AI and analytics, which we all love to do, by the way, which is that there is a lot of non-glamorous stuff that happens beforehand, right? And that starts with first the ingestion, right? So when we talk of ingestion, and again, I think Akhilesh alluded to this with structured data, unstructured data, media, all kinds of files, and we are creating more with every smart device, sensors, and so on, right? So the pure ingestion has to be the first step. Then the storage, and that's how I think the companies need to map its journey to say, I need to ingest my data, I need to figure out how to store it, what size, what scale do I need to deploy it across geographies, does it need to be available in real time, what level of backup I need to plan, which data needs to be hot versus cold. So there's a whole lot of storage decision making that needs to go into that. Then you talk about the massaging piece, which is readiness, right? So does the data talk to each other, right? How do you reconcile that data? Before you build the actual analytics or the power of AI on top, which is ultimately the serving model. So whether you use Power BI, whether you use Tableau, whether you are doing some machine learning models on it, a lot of it has to be for the data to get ready for it in a data factory format, really. Right? And then that's when you actually create the magic. And so if you map it down to how a company should think about it, I think it is exactly these steps. Can you really switch off an oil refinery and say, I'm going to build another oil refinery because, this process is old? That's not usually how it will work, right? So the strategy has to be phased. It has to be smart in terms of what intervention I'm going to do on which step. So am I going to do A/B testing? Am I going to divert some of my volume into another storage and so on, and then start to see the value? So it's a journey. There's no quick fix. And maybe one last thing I would just allude to is skilling. So just readiness of your organization to actually go through this journey. I think if done well, it actually introduces really powerful roles and career paths for the employees, right? So while we all understand that computer scientists, data scientists, those are core ingredients of, this journey. But there are a whole lot of other roles like cognitive scientists, psychologists, right? Because we hear about biasness in data, right? So there's a whole lot of additional roles, analysts that opens up in this journey, including humanities background. And that, I think, is what a company really needs to, balance and go through to create that magic, ultimately.
Thank you so much. Very, very interesting.